Welcome to USAEBN's Prep Academy's CR 104 Heat Stress Readiness. A more in-depth course is found on www.usaebn.org/prepacademy. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. Heat kills by pushing the human body beyond its limits. And yes, everybody has a limit. I don't care how strong you think you are and all that. Your body has a limit. Now, under normal conditions, that body's internal thermostat produces perspiration that evaporates and cools the body. The internal body core temperature we're talking about here. The human body can tolerate about 10 degrees, 10 to 12 degrees. At 95 degrees, the body begins to freeze. Remember here something, folks, that your brain is surrounded by water, okay? I can't remember what they call it, but it's some type of fluid, okay? At 95 degrees, that fluid freezes, and that kills your brain. At 105 degrees, that fluid boils, and it boils the brain. However, in extreme heat and high humidity, evaporation is slowed, and the body must work extra hard to maintain a normal temperature. Sweat is normal, okay? Sweating is normal. How much you sweat can be a problem, but more than likely it's not. The human body is trying to cool off the internal core by wetting down the body. Now, elderly people, young children, and those who are sick and overweight, all three categories have compromised immune systems, are more likely to become victims of extreme heat. Elderly people, because of their age, their immune system's breaking down. Sick and overweight, same thing. And young children are developing their immune system still. So they're more likely to become victims of extreme heat. Because men sweat more than women, they are more susceptible to heat illness because they dehydrate quicker. Now that's a key word right there, dehydration. Okay? If you know the signs and symptoms of dehydration and you can replenish yourself and rehydrate yourself, heat illness will not be a thing for you. Now, doing too much on a hot day, spending too much time in the sun, or staying too long in an overheated place can also cause heat-related illnesses. The thing I want you to understand here is that you can acclimate yourself to the weather. So on Monday, you spend 2 hours out in the sun. Tuesday, 4 hours. Wednesday, 6 hours. By Thursday, you're ready to be out there all day long. Know the symptoms of heat disorder and overexposure to the sun and be ready to give first aid treatment. So for every disorder there is, every symptom, there is a first aid treatment, and we will go into that. Most heat disorders occur because the victim has been overexposed to the heat or has overexercised for his or her age and physical condition. And like I said, I don't care how tough you think you are, how macho you are, you have a limit, okay? Other conditions that can induce heat-related illness include stagnant atmospheric conditions and poor air quality. That's why during the summer you want to take a look at your air quality, and you can use the USAEBN website for that. We do monitor air quality throughout the United States. Now, the duration of excessive heat plays an important role in how people are affected by a heat wave. Studies have shown that a significant rise in heat-related illnesses happen when excessive heat lasts more than 2 days. Most people are not accustomed to it, so they're going to have more illnesses, more people going down because of it. Spending at least 2 hours per day in air conditioning areas significantly cuts down the number of heat-related illnesses. Now, we've all heard of shelters and stuff like that. In the winter, we have these places where you can go and get some heat. And in the summertime, there's places you can go to get some AC. Example, a grocery store or a library, okay? Go grab a book and read something. I guarantee you'll be a lot better off during a heat wave. Now, a prolonged drought can cause a serious economic impact on the community, and prolonged drought happens because of heat waves. Increased demand for water and electricity may result in shortages of resources. California experiences this every year. They call them brownouts, where when everybody gets home from work, they all turn on their ACs, and it's such a drain on the the electricity bridge that some people will be without power. Moreover, food shortages may occur if agricultural production is damaged or destroyed by loss of crops or livestock. So when we go to a heat wave, and we're talking heat waves here, a prolonged heat wave, then you're going to start seeing some agricultural damage and livestock losses. That can affect our food chain too. Now, in recent years, excessive heat has caused more deaths than all other weather events, including floods. Okay? People are not ready for it. That's why this becomes so important to understand what we need to know. The American Meteorological Society reports that on average, heat kills more than 1,000 people each year. That's 1,000 lives we can save by knowing the symptoms. Thousands of people are taken to local hospitals as a result of excessive heat also. Now, extreme temperatures. Extreme heat or cold occur somewhere in the world every year and can afflict nearly every location on Earth. Now, before we get into the next one, extreme heat and cold. What they're talking about is for an environment. Florida goes down to 30 degrees. That might not be extreme for Alaska, but that is extreme for Florida, and that will affect their area. Heat waves are periods of unusual high temperatures, usually lasting 3 days to 3 weeks. Typically, heat waves are characterized by temperatures of 95 degrees or higher, although lower temperatures accompanied by high humidity levels can also be considered a heat wave. Remember that. Now, temperature extremes are most common in the mid-latitude regions, especially near the interior of the large continents such as North America. And when we're talking about mid-latitude, we're talking Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, stuff like that. Here, without the modern effects of oceans, winter minimum temperatures can drop to below 4 degrees below zero and above 104 in the summer for several weeks. In the mid-latitude regions, temperature extremes are most common June through August and December through February. So June through August is summer, December to February is winter. As you can see from the picture here, where our extreme heats have occurred: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas. In the lower mid-latitude, extreme high temperatures are common from late spring to early fall. So let's talk about what is extreme heat. Temperatures that hover 10 degrees or more above the average high temperatures for a region and last for several weeks are defined as extreme heat. Remember I said, we're talking regions here. Florida's region is different than Alaska region. Northeast is different than Southwest. Humid and muggy conditions, which add to the discomfort of high temperatures, occur when a dome of high atmospheric pressure traps hazy, damp air near the ground. Okay, that's part of a weather phenomenon. It's called a dome, a heat dome or a cold dome, and it does occur. Now, excessively dry and hot conditions can provoke dust storms and low visibility. And what we're talking about with dust storms, as you dry out the ground, the top layer becomes fragile and can be blown away. Droughts occur when a long period passes without substantial rainfall. A heat wave combined with a drought is a very dangerous situation. Southwest goes through this every year. Now, the parameters of an extreme heat watch warning and advisory can vary by location, regional. Generally, temperatures that hover 10 degrees or more above the average high temperature for that region, last for prolonged periods of time, are often accompanied by high humidity, and the body cannot tolerate this, and is defined as extreme heat. A heat wave is a very dangerous situation, and it seems that we've been going through these at least once or twice a year. Now, people living in urban areas might be at greater risk from the effect of prolonged heat wave than people living in rural areas. A lot of wind and stuff like that, which causes coolness, doesn't happen in the urban areas. An increased health problem, especially for those with respiratory difficulties, can occur when stagnant atmospheric conditions trap pollutants in urban areas, thus adding unhealthy air to excessively high temperatures. Basically, you're getting screwed either way. In addition, asphalt and concrete stores heat longer and gradually releases heat at night, which produces significantly higher nighttime temperatures in urban areas, which is also known as the urban heat island effect. Out here in Phoenix, I've seen it 103 degrees at midnight, and the asphalt is still releasing the heat. Now let's take a look at some heat waves. The heat wave or extreme heat is a temperature that hovers 10 degrees or more above the average high temperature for the region and lasts for several weeks and are defined as extreme heat. Humidity and muggy conditions, which add to the discomfort of high temperatures, occur when a dome of high atmospheric pressure traps hazy, damp air near the ground. Excessively dry and hot conditions can provide dust storms and low visibilities. We've already said this. Droughts occur when a long period passes without significant rainfall. A heat wave combined with a drought is a very dangerous situation. A basic definition of a heat wave implies that it is an extended period of unusual high atmospheric-related heat stress, which causes temporary modifications in lifestyle and which may have adverse health consequences for the affected population. Look, when you go into a heat stroke or a heat wave, you're going to have to modify your lifestyle. I know back in the old days when they didn't have ACs and stuff like that, out here in the Southwest, people would do most of their business at night when it was cooler and sleep during the day. That's why you get siestas. Okay, it was just too hot to do anything, so they rested and they did most of their business at night. Thus, although a heat wave is a meteorological event, it cannot be assessed without reference to human impacts. Now, impacts and damages. People living in urban areas might be at greater risk from the effects of a prolonged heat wave than people living in rural regions. Heat wave impacts are widespread. While a large number of deaths may not occur in this single city every year, the cumulative impact across broad regions over several days to weeks can result in heavy loss of life. So what they're saying here is this. We might have 2 deaths in New York City, 1 death in Washington, D.C., but 16 in Chicago. Cumulatively, that's going to take a heavy loss of life. Where next year, there might be 15 in New York, 40 in Washington, D.C., and 3 in Chicago. Still the same. Now, many more hundreds of deaths are associated with excessive heat attributed to heart attacks, strokes, and other respiratory stresses. So, it's not just the heat that's killing you. The heat's causing more problems, or other problems like heart attacks, strokes, and respiratory distress. That kills you. Is it related to the heat? Yes. Most deaths occur in urban areas where concrete, asphalt, and physical structures raise temperatures in urban heat islands, and nighttime temperatures remain above average. You can't get no relief at night. Heat waves also impact farming and ranching through loss of cattle and other livestock. Now, impacts caused by heat waves. Illnesses caused by exposure to high temperatures, including heat cramps, fainting, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and death. Population of increased risk. Populations at increased risk of especially older and younger people, their risk of dehydration, low physical and excessive exertion, etc. Another reason of death during a heat wave is because living alone. Studies designed to investigate why some people died during the 1995 and 1999 heat waves in Chicago found that the strongest risk factor was living alone, particularly for those who did not leave home daily. Basically, you can be you can be showing symptoms and no one's there to notice it or help you. As you get older, your vision starts to go, so you don't know what the temperature is. That's why we have large thermometers and thermostats for elderly people so they can see it better. And if you're in 100-degree weather and you don't know, you're starting to experience dehydration and heat stroke, and you go down, no one's there to help you. Now, you heard of the heat index. So what is the heat index? The heat index is the temperature the body feels when the effect of heat and humidity are combined. It's not just the heat. Exposure to direct sunlight can increase the heat index by up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is what the heat index looks like. Yellow, gold, light red, and red. Okay? Now, watches, warnings, and advisories. The National Weather Service issues alerts for excessive heat on a county-by-county basis. You can go to USAEBN's Lighthouse and you can get a detailed map of your county, and National Weather Service alerts will be issued on our website. The alerts are broadcasted on NOAA Weather Radio and on local radio and television stations and USAEBN.org. The parameters of excessive heat watch, warning, and advisories vary by location. Regional, folks, okay? Yes, and that is the forecast for Phoenix. Excessive heat watch means conditions are favorable for an event to meet or exceed local excessive heat warnings criteria in the next 12 to 48 hours. So a watch means conditions are favorable for excessive heat warning criteria. Excessive heat warning means that the heat values are forecasted to meet or exceed locally defined weather criteria for at least 2 days. So what we're getting here is this. We'll take Phoenix, for example. Average for today is 105 to 95. Well, we're going to be at 108 to 110, then they're going to give a heat warning. But if we're going to be at 110 for the next 7 days, they're going to issue a excessive heat watch. Now, an advisory, excessive heat advisory, means hazardous heat conditions have begun or will begin within 36 hours, and if caution is not exercised, it can become life-threatening. Okay, so there's your watch, warning, and advisory. Some terms you need to know. A heat wave, prolonged period of excessive heat, often combined with excessive humidity. The National Weather Service steps up its procedures to alert the public during these periods when it anticipates an increase in human heat-related illness. Heat index, the number of degrees Fahrenheit that tells how hot it really feels with relatively humidity, is added into the actual air temperature. Exposure to full sunshine can increase the heat index by 15 degrees. Heat cramps. Heat cramps are muscular pain and spasms due to heavy exertion. Although heat cramps are the least severe, they are often the first signal that the body is having trouble with the heat. Heat exhaustion. Heat exhaustion typically occurs when people exercise heavily or work in a hot, humid place where body fluids are lost through heavy sweating. Blood flows to the skin increases, causing blood flow to decrease to the vital organs. This results in a form of mild shock. If not treated, the victim's condition will worsen, body temperatures will keep rising, and the victim will suffer a heat stroke. And that would be the next definition. Heat stroke. Heat stroke is life-threatening. The victim's temperature control system, which produces heat, sweating, to cool the body, stops working. The body temperature can rise so high that brain damage and death may result if the body is not cooled quickly. This is where, if you start to see a heat stroke, dump them in ice. Sunstroke, another term for heat stroke. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the heat emergencies and the first aid procedures that go along with this. Now, there's stages in a heat stroke or a heat emergency. First starts with heat cramps. It's the least serious and usually the first to occur. Then it goes to heat exhaustion, develops when the body becomes dehydrated in a hot environment. And then heat stroke. It's a medical emergency and, if untreated, will usually cause death. Now, cramps, exhaustion, and stroke. We've already identified them. What are they? What are heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and sunstroke? Sunstroke, heat stroke, same thing. Now, heat cramps are muscular pains and spasms caused by heavy exertion and high heat. Heat cramps are often the first sign that the body is having trouble with the heat. Now, activity in a hot environment may cause painful cramps in the lower legs or stomach muscles. May occur along with heat exhaustion or heat stroke. So it's the first sign, and then it continues. It can occur with heat stroke. Signs include muscle pain, cramping, spasms, heavy sweating. Now, the first aid for heat cramps is have the person stop activity and sit quietly in a cool place. Give a sport drink of water, usually water. For abdominal cramps, continue resting in a comfortable position. For leg cramps, stretch muscles by extending legs and flexing the ankle. Put pressure on cramped area. Now, heat exhaustion typically involves a loss of bodily fluids through heavy sweating when someone strenuously exercises or works in high heat and humidity. In someone suffering from heat exhaustion, blood flows to the skin increases while blood flow to the vital organs decreases, resulting in a mild form of shock. So this is how it happens. When you start to go into a heat exhaustion, your blood's flowing more to your skin than to your vital organs, and that develops into shock. If not treated, body temperatures will continue to rise and the person may suffer heat stroke. Now, some signs of heat exhaustion. Sweating may lead to dehydration and depletion of salt and electrolytes in the body. Unrelieved heat exhaustion may develop into heat stroke, a true medical emergency. Heavy sweating, thirst, fatigue, and heat cramps. Now, later signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion: headaches, dizziness, and nausea, and vomiting. Now, as we were saying, look, it's progressing right now. We went from heat cramps. You didn't listen the first time. Now here comes the second warning. You're heavy sweating, you're thirsty, you're fatigued, you're heat cramps, headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting. If you go through all this and you're still out in the sun, there's a problem. Now, the first aid for heat exhaustion: move victim from the heat to rest in a cool place. Loosen or remove unnecessary clothing. Do not get them naked, but unnecessary clothing. Give sports drinks and water to drink. Raise feet 8 to 12 inches, as in any form of shock. And cool the victim. Put wet cloth on the forehead and body. Spray skin with water. Seek medical care if victim conditions worsen or does not improve within 30 minutes. Another thing you can do here is put ice. Put ice on the armpits, on the neck, on the groin, and on the wrist. These are blood points. This is where you can cool the blood down faster and it cools the body core down temperature faster. Do not give the victim salt tablets. Give liquids containing caffeine or alcohol. Use sports drinks instead if victim is alert. If the victim is unconscious, you do not give them anything to drink. You just douse them with water. Try and cool their body down that way. But no salt tablets and no caffeine or alcohol. If the victim is lethargic, nervous, nauseated, or vomiting, do not give them any liquids. Okay, let's go into heat stroke. Now, heat stroke, also known as sunstroke, is a life-threatening condition in which a person's temperature control system, which produces sweat to cool the body, stops working. The body temperature of someone suffering from heat stroke can rise so high that brain damage and death will result if the body is not cooled quickly. The brain boils. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, well, we'll wait until the. Now, heat stroke's a life-threatening emergency which more common during hot summer periods. May develop slowly over several days or more rapidly when strenuous activity is in the heat. Victim may be dehydrated and not sweating. Maybe he will be dehydrated and not sweating. The body temperature of 104 or higher. Difference from heat exhaustion. Skin is flushed and feels very hot to touch. Okay, that's one of the signs. Skin may be pale and clammy. Victim becomes confused and irritated and may become unresponsive and have convulsions. Skin flushed and very hot to touch. Sweating may have stopped. Fast breathing. Headaches, dizziness, extreme confusion. Irritable behavior. And possible convulsions and unresponsiveness. These are the signs of heat stroke now, folks. Now, the first aid for heat stroke, call 911. There's no doubt about it. This is a life-threatening emergency. Call 911. They're going to get him. They're going to give him cold fluids and all that, and IVs and all that stuff. Move victim to a cool place. Remove outer clothing. Cool victim quickly. Ice packs. Dump them in ice. Whatever you have to do. Wrap victim in wet sheet and sponge with cool water. Spray skin with water. And put ice bags and cold packs besides neck, armpits, and groin. Now, the thing here, and a lot of people will say, well, if you cool him down too rapidly, you're going to send the man into shock. Well, if he's having a heat stroke, he's already in shock. So you're not going to do any worse. Or you're not going to prevent it. It's going to happen either way. Now, here's a heat stroke alert for you. Do not give victim salt tablets. Do not give them liquids containing caffeine or alcohol, like we said before. Use sports drinks instead if the victim is alert and conscious. If victim is lethargic, nauseated, or vomiting, do not give them any liquids whatsoever. Preventing heat emergencies. Wear loose, lightweight clothing. Rest frequently in shade or cooled areas. Drink adequate fluids, more fluids than you need. And here's where I want to step in. Deviate here for a second. Urination. Everybody's got a frequency of urination. Every 30 minutes, every hour, 45 minutes, whatever the case may be. But if you know your body talk, if you're in tune with your body talk, you'll know your frequency. Let's say it's 45 minutes. So you're out in the heat and you're working and you're sweating profusely, and it's been an hour and you haven't gone to the bathroom yet, that might be your body trying to tell you, hey, I'm using all my liquid to cool you down. Stop. If you go an hour and a half, double the time, you might have a problem. If you stop sweating, you have a problem. Your vision goes from there to there, pinpoint, you have a problem. These are all signs that should tell you, time to go. Avoid exertion if overweight or elderly. All right, I want to go ahead and thank you for coming to the USA EBN Prep Academy heat awareness class.